Hey guys, welcome back. I've got another tool review for you today. We've got the Makita DFS452, so it's their new auto feed screw gun with the new sort of end piece on it, I suppose. So it looks much like some of the power drills that Makita used to do, but this time, yeah, it's got this removable end on it, which is quite interesting. So you've got the two nozzles, if you like, for it. One is the auto feed nozzle like that, and then the other one is this Dimpler piece, which is quite interesting, and they both come with their own drive pieces. So to switch them out is fairly straightforward, so you can kind of go between one and the other. Another thing to note is that the auto feed bit can go on in multiple different positions, so you don't just have to have it sort of straight up and down. You can have it upside down, you can have it, yeah, a whole bunch of different positions. So things that I really like about the auto feed screw gun. First sort of glance, I was a little bit skeptical of it, probably due to the nozzle here, but after using it for a little bit, it does actually go pretty smooth. Loading it is a little bit tight, which I'll go into later, but the actual operation of it is pretty good. It's probably a little bit better than the other model that they do in the 18 volt, and the depth adjustment on it happens really quickly. It's quite nice, so you can still achieve a nice result, but you don't have to kind of crank the depth adjustment heaps. And then the awesome thing that I really like about this one is that it's got the D mode, which means that you can lock the trigger on, and it won't run the gun. As I pull the trigger, it engages the motor same as your normal auto feed screw gun, and whenever you push, that's whenever the drive happens to the screw. Or what you can do is just press the D mode button, the little light will come on, and then I can pull the trigger, lock it on, and then anytime I press on the gun, I don't have to touch the trigger or anything. Anytime I press it in, so this works with the Dimpler as well, anytime I press it, it will drive just for that moment while I'm driving the screw, which is real awesome. Another thing to, I guess, be aware of is the size of it. It is quite big compared to your typical impact. So I've got here just an impact driver, and then the size of the auto feed gun is quite long compared to, I guess, your standard impact driver. This back clip here actually hangs really well. Whenever I've got it on the back of my apron on the tool hanging slot there, it's actually real good. Like, I don't even notice it back there, sort of thing. It's just like a drill or an impact sort of thing. It's actually really nice. So although it is quite long, probably getting into tight spaces, it's not so good. It's not that much longer than the other screw gun, and it does hang really well. Okay, so the Dimpler bit, this one's real interesting. This is probably what I was most intrigued to see if it worked or not about the whole thing, and that is, it's got this piece around here which is supposed to sort of touch on the jib and kind of make a light indent around the screw head to stop it from sort of bursting the paper, and then also whenever you plaster over it, it sort of creates a little dimple that you can plaster. The idea behind this is the bit gets pressed in, and that engages the drive, so as you push on it, that's whenever the drive gets engaged, and then it'll drive until the dimple bit hits the jib, at which point the drive will stop. So it'll stop your screw at a point that's relative to the surface of the jib, which means whenever you're putting in the screws, it gets a really nice depth finish quite consistently. A really cool feature that I found with this, really cool use for it, is whenever you screw off a jib sheet, Usually there's a couple of screws here and there that don't get all the way in. It's just a little bit proud and it has to be touched up before it's plastered. This one here, what's really cool is you can stick it on the D mode, lock the trigger on, and then just literally touch it on the screw and push it, and it will get it just right, snug up to the jib. And you've got easy depth adjustment on the front here just by twisting that. So if you find it's driving them slightly too far, you can wind it back, or if it's leaving them proud, then you can crank it out. Sweet. So first of all we're going to try the manual mode. We have to pull the trigger to put it in. Here we go. We can switch the modes over, and then you can lock the trigger on, and it should just come on whenever I press it. So the way this wheel is designed, I think, is these little bumps here, as the action moves, this wheel turns and they pull the collation strip, which obviously this is out of scale. They pull that collation strip up and further in so that it can put another screw in, and as you do more and more screws, it's just going to move further and further through and keep feeding through so that it can drive the screws out this way. So I think what I've noticed with this one, that my boss was sort of pointing out to me the other day, is that the slide that it sort of comes through, these rails, is quite tight on this one, and so it does mean the positive is that this collation strip is held really tight and firm where the drive is happening here, which means that the screw is less likely to kind of wobble around like this as you're trying to drive it. But it does mean that whenever you feed and then retract the collation strip, it's quite a lot of friction, I suppose, but it just means it's a bit difficult pulling them in and out compared to the other one, which is nice and loose. The other thing that my workmate notices is this: if this is your collation strip here, that one up there, the distance between the little notches in the collation strip is shorter than the distance between the bumps on the, or the notches on the feed wheel. And so what happens is, as it goes in, you can see down here, what happens is as it feeds into here, it ends up kind of trying to stretch the collation strip as it comes in, and these bite the collation strip between this piece here and the next bump coming around. As it comes through, it kind of bites the collation strip not where the notch is, it bites it kind of just before the notch, and so it ends up being a little bit it just adds a little bit of friction to that. So I don't know whether that's an oversight or whether it's something to do with the feed, trying to keep the feed a little bit stiffer, but yeah, that's sort of what I've noticed so far. So just looking at the nose on this piece, it's a little bit kind of, I don't know, it feels alright, but it feels a little bit lightweight compared to the older Makita style screw guns that Makita do. And the other thing is, it's got this end on it which is quite nice, but I've noticed on mine already one side of it's kind of starting to come loose, like it feels like it's just going to fall off. Yeah, that just kind of feels, I don't know, the frame feels a little bit thin and kind of, yeah, not as robust as the older ones. Sweet, that's all for this review. I'll see you on the next one.